Thanks for watching this special edition of the Council in Brief. I'm Susan Kennedy. By a vote of 8-1, the County Council has approved a budget of just over $5 billion, a slight increase from last year's budget as the county continues to recover from the recession. It's a budget that holds the line on some of the council's top priorities, including schools, public safety, and property tax.
The targeted additions we have made will make a big difference to our community.
The vote comes after weeks of work sessions and deliberations. The budget maintains property tax revenue at the charter limit and protects core county services and safety net programs.
The total budget before us contains an increase of just 1.7% over the current year's budget. The net increase compared to the executive's recommended budget, including reductions we have made, is $17 million. We've passed a restrained and responsible budget. There were many needs in the community that we heard about, and we were able to address quite a few of them. I think all council members feel good about the very restrained amount that we added over and above what the county executive recommended, but it's a balanced budget. It does not increase property taxes, and I think we're providing our constituents with a government that works. That's what they expect, and that's what they pay for.
Council Vice President Nancy Florine cast the only vote against the budget. The council voted to support the 2010 energy tax as recommended by the county executive. Councilmember Florine says she believes the council should have taken steps to reduce this tax in order to enhance our region's economic development.
Every budget is a series of compromises. It's a set of priorities, and they're not easy to resolve sometimes. And certainly they haven't been over the past few years. But every year we found some compromise that at least while we increased spending, we did offer some taxpayer relief in terms of reducing the energy tax. We did that with 10%, we did that with 10%, we did that with 7%. This year we seem to have been unable to find a way to work through that. So we are increasing spending over last year's budget by $90 million. And we are not finding any relief for the taxpayer as part of that. I'm sorry, I can't support that.
Now dismissed. Our 7th grade students are now dismissed. Thank you for your patience.
The council approved a total of $2.3 billion for Montgomery County Public Schools, an increase of close to $32 million from last year. It meets the maintenance of effort requirement by the state and provides an additional $27.2 million to fund retiree health benefit claims.
We faced a lot of challenges this year when it came to trying to do what we did last year, which was fully fund Montgomery County Public Schools budget. We wanted to do the same thing again, but unfortunate fiscal realities didn't enable us to do so. We were able to give a little bit of money above what the county executive had proposed to the tune of $2 million, but when you look at the total of what our reconciliation list, which was $18 million as a whole, the reality is that, you know, MCPS was short from the state $17 million alone, and that would have been our entire reconciliation list. So, you know, there's really not much that we had in terms of room this year to really make a difference.
And in keeping with its commitment to education, the council went above the executive's recommended funding for Montgomery College by $7.9 million. This appropriation also exceeds the state maintenance of effort requirement for the college.
When we're looking at who we can impact immediately, that's what we see with the college. In the tune of 1 to 2 years, we can take a person from a low-wage job and bring them up to self-sufficiency, getting them certificated in a particular field or with a degree. And those kinds of things are so instrumental. On a quick note, right? All of the things that deal with education, whether it's pre-K, K through 12, and then post-secondary education, are all important. But when we look at what makes the quickest turnaround, we see that in our community colleges, which is why we decided to double down and invest.
Good news for libraries in this budget. The agency will see a 5% increase in funds for fiscal year 2016. That money includes $560,000 for high-demand resources like DVDs, children's materials, ebooks, and foreign language materials. It also covers full funding for the new Silver Spring Library opening in June and money to increase hours at 11 libraries.
We're keeping faith with the promises we've made to our constituents and to our community about the goals we've established.
Libraries are such an important part to our community. They're really a terrific asset and more important to our community. And so I was pleased to ask my colleagues if they would support putting more dollars on so that all of our library hours are brought back to where they were prior to the recession, and lo and behold, we got those dollars. So I'm real pleased that our libraries in my district and really everywhere are now almost right where they were before we had this great financial struggle.
The council added money to the budget that will establish a campaign finance fund for the 2018 election cycle. Just last year, the council and executive approved a bill that would provide partial public financing for local elections. The bill is designed to attract a broader pool of applicants from the outside. The council's newest members, Sidney Katz and Tom Hooker, say making a commitment to this program is the right thing to do.
It's a program that actually 11 members of the county council were involved in. I mean, it was the 9 previous, and then when Tom Hucker and I became members of this body, this county council, that we also signed a letter to the county executive that said how important we need funding for this initiative. And of course, we were hoping for $2 million. It's a budget process. You know that you don't always get every dollar that you would hope. But so we put $1 million in. You need seed money. You need money to prove that you're going to be doing this. This is going to be changing the election process in Montgomery County. And so we felt that it was very important to at least have the $1 million, not to say that $1 million is a small number, it's a large number, and so that we can begin the process of doing this important work.
The program was supported unanimously by the council before I got here. There's a lot of concern about sources of contributions to council members, and people want to make sure that council members are responsive to the public and not just to donors. So I think it's perfectly appropriate that we made a down payment on this public election fund. It would be, if we put that off for several more years, it would be hard to get the fund to the level that we need in the election year. We're 3 years from an election. It makes sense to put a little down payment on that. We also have interviewed and approved members for this commission. So they'll come forward now with recommendations about how big the fund needs to be in the future and how it should operate. But it makes perfect sense that we wouldn't just do nothing this year. We would put some down payment into the fund to make sure it's adequately funded.
We don't have a quota. There are no quotas, but they want to.
The approved budget for the Department of Police also received strong support with a $270 million budget. Included in that is funding for a pilot program for police body cameras. Council members say some recent high-profile cases have brought the issue of police conduct into the spotlight, and the cameras may be a way to protect both officers and citizens.
There are no dire cuts in this budget, and there are some modest improvements. And I chair the Public Safety Committee, and I'm grateful that we're able to maintain a decent level of support over there, and that we continue to expand services where they're needed. Events around the country have indicated how important it is to actually know what happens at the point of contact between law enforcement and the civilian population. And without that, you just have speculation. And there's been too much that's gone on, and in my mind, too much wrong that's gone on to allow that to continue. And I have to say that it was actually the chief that looked at all this and was in the process of saying we're going to implement body cameras when I went over and I said I want a body camera program. He says we're already working on it. I think they recognize that it's going to be good for the community, first of all, and it will help the officers because everybody understands that all the transactions will now be filmed, and I think it helps with clarity.
A recently approved bill that would develop a strategic plan for child care services received funding as part of this year's budget. The money will create a child care expansion and quality enhancement initiative focusing on family child care providers.
I believe that funding the newly created Child Care and Early Education Policy Officer and Child Care Strategic Plan is an important first step in implementing the Child Care Expansion and Quality Enhancement Initiative. We really do have to place that investment in the first 5 years. It creates a high-level position who is completely responsible for coordinating, for making sure that all the best practices are employed, to making sure to track what are the needs throughout the county and how we can best respond to those needs. And that, very comprehensive task. So very important to send that signal that now we have a high-level position who is responsible for that. I think also preparing a strategic plan, building on what we've done already, is going to be really important as an advisory council is convened. And then we need to start talking about the execution of that strategic plan. Really critical also the provision and inclusion of family child care as a very important component of the child care continuum. For many years, I believe there's a tendency to ignore family child care as an important component. The reality, the data shows that this is the type of care that is preferred by very many families, especially in the low-income communities. So the provision of training, the mentoring, technical assistance to family child care providers, especially to those whose English may not be the first language, et cetera, it's a way for us to also strengthen that sector and respond to the needs of child care.
The office that we've created, we just passed the legislation this week, and we are funding the office now with the budget, so it'll begin in July. We'll begin to, set it up, and during the course of this fiscal year, we'll get right to work on the task of doing the research about child care services, developing a strategic plan to improve child care services in the county. So it's really exciting because we're getting to work right away. The council really was united in saying it's time to move more aggressively on the child care issue.
The county's capital improvements program is the focus of major review every 2 years. For fiscal year 16, the council approved several amendments to the plan, including additional funds for the future Wheaton Library and Recreation Center.
We talked about this a lot. We did a tour, we showed the conditions, and what the Department of General Services came back with was a very, very, I think, appropriate proposal that really does respond and takes into account the community's expectations. And I think it's going to be just a wonderful, wonderful project.
These CIP amendments also include $6.1 million to complete the Met Branch Trail between Tacoma Park and Silver Spring. Blair Road is where one of the section of the trail is to be built. This is what it looks like today. When the project is complete, it will look like this.
Well, it's a critical bike trail. It's a critical commuter trail. It really links us to the District of Columbia, and it's just something that has languished for far too long. And our committee pressed our Department of Transportation, can't you think a little differently with respect to this? And lo and behold, they did, and came back with a proposal that we eagerly embrace so that we'll be able to make progress on this important bike trail.
Another project moving forward is the completion of improvements to Stringtown Road in Clarksburg. Craig Rice says this project has been on the books for years.
Well, the Clarksburg community for a long time has been extremely patient. All of my residents that live along Stringtown Road that have lived there for decades have continuously complained about the fact that cars keep ending up in their yards. It's a very dangerous stretch of road. We've had a number of accidents, including a school bus that veered off of the road as well. And so I'm very happy to see that this is included in the CIP. I'm very appreciative to the county executive working with a lot of the land developers to be able to come up with a comprehensive solution to move this road forward. This really is a huge safety issue for the Up-County.
And finally, there is no denying Montgomery County is known for being a jurisdiction where elected officials are generous in their support of grants. This year, the council approved $2.24 million in grants to the nonprofit community.
We've added substantial funding to house our homeless population and to strive to achieve President Obama's goal of ending homelessness among veterans in the coming year. We've added quite a bit for our health clinics that provide access to health care for those who don't have health insurance themselves. We're fully funding the services that people require to maintain our high quality of life and keep Montgomery County the desirable place to live that it is.
The fiscal year 2016 budget will go into effect on July 1st. The council will now take a brief recess and will return to regular business the week of June 8th. For County Cable Montgomery, I'm Susan Kennedy. Thanks for watching.